Let me bring Rob and Paul on stage. I've actually given up trying to remember, to be honest, the number of use cases where conversational AI works. So I'm not even going to call them back to you. But one area that is very passionate to my own heart is housing associations and the rental sector, because they're the same thing. And if you're not from the UK, you might not know what these are, Paul, but housing associations are groups who try and provide affordable housing and quality housing to individuals who may otherwise struggle to actually get on the housing ladder or find a place to rent. And we're starting to see in this particular sector, costs are going up. Money or funding from government is going down, and need is going up at the same time. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. I mean, especially this last 12 months, it's really been exacerbated by the squeeze on rents, the increase in costs, and the fact of holding on to good people. Yeah. That's important.
Yeah, it's a tough part of the economy, isn't it? It really is. Rob has worked in this economy for lots of years. He's a 17-year plus tenure chief technology officer. Paul's one of our partners, I should say, works with Druid for numbers of years now. Rob, there is a lot of hype about technology. Let's be honest. I hear the words generative AI and RPA and hyperautomation, intelligent automation and everything else. And if I'm any business, and I'm a housing association in particular where cash is reasonably constrained and every pound has to count, how do I work my way through all of this hype to come up with an actual decision as to what I buy?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it is an increasingly squeezed market with the 7% cap and increased focus on compliance and such like. So we have to look at our own internal processes. We have to be much smarter in how we deliver our services, and we have to look at our service journeys. So what we have to do is wrap that up into something a bit less. We try not to even talk about any kind of sort of bot or AI or anything else. What we try and do is focus on the outcomes, and we have to look at something that the way I packaged it up was bringing in something tangible, something that's got very recognisable benefits in a short period. And also then, recognising that it's a benefit right across. And I think that was one of the biggest things over the last few years, some of the initiatives that I've run. This one had a positive for everyone. It had a positive for customers, it had a positive for our colleagues, and it has a positive in the bank balance. I think that's really where it came in. What we had to do is position it very, as a tangible element. So, we had to say, for example, that, when we looked at it, I'd say, right, for the first months, we're looking at taking one process, describing that down, going right into the root cause of why we do it, because housing associations themselves have traditionally been quite clerical. So building that credibility around when we say you press that red button, it will do this predictive thing, and it will always do that for you, and this is how it's going to happen, was a decent sell. And I think working with partners who can then deliver tangible demonstrations, tangible benefits, and make those very precise predictability. So, for example, when we put our solutions in, right away, 400 hours saved within the first month. We also had an upstream value add around our quality of data, where when we first put it in, we had a 50% failure rate, so everybody's jumping around going, what's going on there? But it was because it was an upstream issue around our service journey, and I think that's where the alignment between, and I think it's been mentioned here quite a few times, the alignment between what we're trying to put in, what the solutions that we're trying to put in, and concentrating on the outcome, aligned to our strategic intent and our service journeys, and that was the constancy around our service journeys. How do we make it better for our customers, and how do we make it better for our colleagues? So it was in short, removing the technology out of it and concentrating on the business outcomes, and leaving the technology to the technologists, and then presenting it in a way that the rest of the organisation can understand, and also, good value for money.
Yeah, and that is key in that particular area. But I love, and you notice there's a thread of logic between all the talks we've covered today. Yeah. That strategic intent, that experience, not concentrating on the technology, the people themselves.
Yeah.
Enterprise RPA, Paul, we're hearing a lot about technologies, and sometimes I see people waiting and waiting and waiting before they decide to invest because they're going, well, there's a new tech, it's a change tech or whatever. Is that the right strategy or the wrong strategy?
I think what you get to there's some people have gone really quickly with technology and they bought it because it's a big shiny thing that comes along, and it's been a big waste of money for a lot of them. Other people are holding off because they're waiting for the next shiny thing to come after that, and they're not addressing the problems the organisation have. And we believe where that's we as an organisation can help them, because I'm not a technologist, so I look at the organisation, what are the business problems they have. We've got good technologists in our company. But the key thing is giving them a roadmap that will solve a problem now, but make sure they're not going down a rabbit hole. And this is where our choice of Druid, which we've been a partner for Druid for about 4 years now. If you look at the conversation we had last year when I presented ChatGPT, generative AI wasn't part of that conversation. But something's coming down the line, and there'll be something after this. So what we had to do is, how can we look to a platform that will allow us to deliver something very quickly to solve business problems, but make sure that 2 years down the line, the technology is still relevant. So taking things like, as a gentleman said from Microsoft, they want to partner with Druid because of the platform it gives them. So we want to partner with Druid because of the quality people, the quality products they have themselves, and the fact that they'll take these new technologies, tell us what they can do, so we can then deliver it out to the customer.
That kind of builds on what Dave was saying there earlier on, in that they've built something, given value, iterated, built again.
It's take it easy, make it easy for them, that they're not diving in straight away. It's give them a subject area that we can very quickly prove the value of it. And an example of some of the pilots we did with our customers, within 3 days, the director was looking at it and saying, this is going to make a material difference to what we do. They can really see it very, very quick. And quicker than I've ever seen. I've been in the industry for quite a while. And this is much quicker of delivering value to people.
I like that a lot. I like that. And as I think it was Dan saying earlier on, the technology will keep evolving. So, you can develop use cases in a short period of time, get value. The technology will change, you get more value.
Yeah.
But that sounds reasonably easy, Rob. But there's barriers to getting technology into organizations. What are the barriers you're seeing in the rental sector, the housing association sector, and how do we overcome those in a practical way?
I think, he's a good salesman. You can put that in, can he? Easy to do. For me, there's probably two. It's culture. I think I mentioned it earlier. We're all about, especially in social housing, it is about the tenant, it is about the resident and understanding what the resident is. So co-creating solutions with the resident and bringing them in. And I think I mentioned it earlier as well. Don't talk about technology. Talk about their outcomes. Try and tease out. If we start talking about technology and technology solutions, as a technologist, we've really failed, because we're the experts. We can select partners that can help deliver if we have got a good brief around what the outcomes should be. So I think culture is a big element, because everything was manual. Everything's, especially in our contact centres, you have there's the standardisation. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not paraphrasing wholly the housing sector, but through conversations that I've had with other leaders, especially in the G15, which is the top 15 in London, it is about that standardisation of approach and making sure the quality is of a standard no matter where you are. And I think that's where conversational AI and building knowledge bases and such like really helps. But you have to get that in a tangible, to the business decision makers, you have to get that as a tangible element. You have to get it as a practical element. So that's the first one, is around the culture and technical credibility. How many times, let's put an ERP in, let's go and do this, let's go do, an ERP will solve your problems. It can't do that if you don't have that. If the business is suspicious and constantly suspicious about, I'll need 100,000 for this, I forgot to tell you about this. So we've got to be really, as a technologist perspective, you have to really look at, what, and focus on those key benefits and the realizations. And when you make that contract of, I'm going to give you this, and it's going to be then, and this is what you're going to get, it has to be there. It has to be there. So I think that's where these platforms really made it for us, because you could put them in 3 months, a bot, 3 months, conversational, like you're bringing in, you're improving performance. And also, you know what it's like. It's viral in some ways. When you get success is viral. That success is many fathers, failure's an orphan type thing. People want a bit of it because they see performance improving. And if you see performance improving from a strategic perspective, you'll see the executive going, okay, we're getting better customer satisfaction. What's going on there? Our customer experience committees are saying, I want to get involved in that bot type thing that you're doing. What's all that about? When you bring that in, and again, have that conversation as a non-technologist, try and put that wrapper around it, it works. It works. So for me, technical credibility and, just trying to evangelise through the culture, change the culture.
Yeah. And I think that evangelism is key. I would recommend this to anyone putting in technology. When you get the win, communicate the win and let people know them.
Yeah,
celebrate the wins. Otherwise, it's a hard journey. Okay, so look, the technology works in what we might call cash-constrained or cash-careful areas. But you created EVA.
Yeah.
Tell me what great housing association / rental conversational AI looks like with generative AI. Describe that for me. What's it going to do? What's it going to achieve? How's it going to be different than not having that technology in the business?
Basically, we designed EVA in the last year, especially off the back of the generative AI story, because a lot of people were having difficulties. For example, in a call center, we have customers who have residents on hold for a long time, and it goes back to the difficulty of retaining good staff. So you have people there who don't know the answers to the questions they're being asked, and they have to traditionally go and ask the people that do know, and that sometimes means putting the customer on hold for 6-7 minutes, whatever it might be. One of the things that we've been able to do within EVA is to use the generative AI capabilities along with Druid's capabilities to deliver script quality, consistent, fast answers to people who are fairly new into the business. So you're cutting the training time, the training cost, and you're giving consistency as well. The important thing is the information you're giving out to people is correct, and it's the same as everybody else gives. So we're doing that, and by piloting it, you're proving the value, first of all, and that then drives out more things like the other thing with call centers is wrap time. It costs an awful lot of time and money to do something afterwards before you can go on and take the next call. And what we're using is the capabilities of Druid to actually automate a lot of these processes to, if somebody needs a repair, to make that repair happen without the need to bring individuals and people into it, and automatically make sure it happens within a much more acceptable time. Because one of the big problems and the big drivers is customer satisfaction levels are very low.
8% of the calls that come in are chasing up on a repair. When am I getting my repair? Now, if we can change that to become a more front-facing organisation where you can recognise through CLI and IVR where we are and what we want to do, we can get that information to them right away. Because if that's all they want, then it's there. But it's also building that omni-channel experience where we've got a massive diversity in our social housing tenants. So some still want to come up to a counter to have a conversation. Some just want a call. Some just want a web front end. Some just want an app. And so we've got to account for all of that, and we can bring that all in. But we need to have a standardised platform that can then bomb-burst out the relevant information when it's needed. So we've got up-to-date information on demand at the time they need it. And that's where platforms like Druid...
And we're taking the need for call centres at every time to deal with the person, because you can use Druid to drive that through an automatic process to understand what the problem is, and to then take some actions, invoke some RPA tasks as well in the background to actually solve that problem. So again, taking the pressure away from the people who either haven't the experience, or the more experienced people can do the more cognitive type problem solving.
It's interesting that, because that is one of the uses of conversational AI, where people sometimes have struggled to get their RPA bots to work. Now you've more use cases for them. And I would go back to something Rob says, just we conclude off here in 1 second. That is the oddity. You get a lot of calls in, people don't answer the calls, which result in more calls in. So if you can actually cut out the calls the first time around by using a multi-channel solution, then actually you need less contact center staff, which costs you less. And if the questions are answered, accurately the first time round, by new agents who can scale up really quickly, then the other thing I was thinking is you're not actually interrupting the managers as well who have other work to do at the same time.
The learning curve is much less. There's a much less of a gradient on a learning curve. You can bring people in and out, and if you've got that intuitive process internally that they can get up to speed much quicker, then yeah, you're absolutely right. It just lends a standard. It keeps the performance levels where it should be.
Which brings you the satisfaction levels,
Absolutely,
which brings
yeah.
you.
And I suppose one other thing is it just didn't apply to call centres within housing associations. It's call centres everywhere. It's making the most of the staff you've got, cutting. People probably have 20% body count that they can't fill. So if you can take that down and manage with the costs you've got, it's much better.
It reduces the overall cost per call.
Yeah, which is interesting. And again, look, we've talking about, and as you say, housing associations have call centres, finance departments, HR departments, and everything else. The technology works in a lot of places. To conclude, if people want to find out a little bit more about Eva, maybe jump in and get a POC with you and the team.
Absolutely, and we've found that within a very short period of time, people are seeing the value and able to measure very early the ROI. So it allows them to make decisions quickly, or if it doesn't suit, it allows them to make a decision quickly not to do it.
How would they get in touch with you?
Paul Agnew, paul.agnew@enterpriseRPA.co.uk. I think we're basically, if you either go via Druid or via ourselves, we'll have a conversation happily.
Fantastic. Look, housing associations, this is an area of tremendous need. It really, really is. It's a massively worthwhile area. There's a lot of people in housing distress or need some element of support. That's growing in the UK. It's fantastic to see a technology actually, for social good, making a real impact. Folks, Rob and Paul, please, thank you very much. Cheers.